Carl and Lou here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life. gbhblofficial for short. Horror movie review time. As we're going to a little bit of an indie one. One that maybe isn't as well known compared to some of the ones we've previously been covering. We checked out Room for Rent. This is a movie I'd seen before, a couple of years before, at a random time on a night shift at work where I wanted to review something, and I saw starring Lynn Shay, who I think's a great actor.
Yeah.
Been in many, many great movies. I really enjoy her work. And I thought, yeah, I'll check this one out. Sounds interesting. And fucking loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. So I was kind of like, let's rewatch this. Been a couple of years. You hadn't seen it.
No.
And it's a good movie. It's a very good movie. That's a mystery thriller with horror elements in it.
Yeah, it feels just a quite sad story overall.
It is. That's the thing. It is not a movie to make you feel good.
No.
There's nothing really in this that will make you feel good. There are moments where I smile purely because of good acting and what people do that I really enjoy. But overall, this is a very harrowing watch with a very dark final 15 minutes.
And it's not horror in the sense of outright
It's
black and white, evil, good and evil.
No, it's not horror in that. It's more of a thriller. It's more of a thriller with some horror elements near the end, I think, when you're talking about violence and blood and stuff like that. Written by Stuart Flack, directed by Tommy Stovall, and starring Lynn Shay, Oliver Rayon, and Valeska Miller. So, Lynn Shay plays Joyce Smith. She's an elderly housewife who is left distraught when her husband dies in basically a slip and fall accident while fixing the roof. This is how we're introduced, and it's those wonderful drone shots of this really small town. It looks, we're not sure, but it looks like it might be in Arizona, based on the mountains and stuff like that. And we do a slow drones across this to this house, and then you see coroners getting out of their van from the high as they go into the back, and you see a body under a sheet, and it's like, okay, instantly you get what's happened. And there's a ladder as well up against it. You know
it straight away
without a single word of dialogue, and we continue that way as then we meet inside. Someone's trying to talk to Joyce, and she's clearly distraught about it, and it's like, oh, this is, you get it all completely. That's her husband. He's fallen from the roof and died, and she's upset. And it's like, okay, cool. I really like the opening.
I did say it was like, it shows straight away the quality of the camera work.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It sets you up. You're like, okay, well, it's some sort of grainy, shaky cam. It was really well thought out.
Well, let's talk about that. Cinematography throughout.
Oh, it's lovely.
Brilliantly done.
Yeah.
The use of panning shots is a great one later on during the sex part, and it pans down to find her sitting. There's some great panning shots. Really, really well done. Yeah, it's a beautiful looking movie. It really is. It's low budget, but not low budget in the concept of here's my camera phone. Thing, you know?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I say the fact when you're first introduced, you haven't got to say more than a couple of words. Mm-hmm. Like, you kind of get an idea that he's not got many friends. There's a funeral, like there's hardly anyone there at the funeral. Memorial.
We kind of fly through quite a bit quite early on at the start. It sets up Lynn Shay's Joyce to be a very meek, a very mild elderly woman. You know, way she holds herself. She's always holding a bag quite tight to herself. She shuffles along, but she's also, with her husband dead, it's almost like she's getting out for the first time. Like she's not used to it, kind of thing. So we see that she puts herself in situations where she isn't quite aware and with it, but it also sets up lots of stuff for further into the film. So we'll fly through with them. The funeral. That they don't have many friends. It's very, very lonely, that kind of thing. But we also show when she puts the ashes back that she almost wants to rid herself of her husband immediately.
Locks him away.
Locks the ashes away, that thing. She goes to the bank where her attorney, we'll get to it in a minute, he tells her, look, you know, there was a lot of money owed on a loan, and there's no other assets named, not much money. And immediately you're like, oh man, that sucks. And the attorney, what were you going to say?
That's what I was going to say. Like
right. So this is hilarious. I didn't notice this the first time round. I think because it was a couple of years ago, pre-AEW. But the attorney is played by ring announcer Justin Roberts.
I was sitting there like, what? Hello, what are you doing here?
And we almost were like, and you said announce it, start announcing it.
Yeah, it started to be like really inappropriate.
You've got no money from North Carolina, you know.
I also felt like that kind of gave more insight to their marriage as well. So like,
she wasn't aware.
Like, if you're close to your husband who's got money problems, would that not been obvious? Like you like so distant apart, and in fact, he had like his own office downstairs. again, separation, like how close were they and stuff. So yeah, that was a good little touch to it.
It really, really was. You know, she goes to a park to watch some young men skateboarding and basically gets verbally abused by them. These guys are dicks. They'll come up again and they are very hateable. That kind of thing. And we see her kind of snapper as well, a kind of early thing where she'll snap and she grabs a skateboard and puts it in the bin. Yeah. That's what she does and walks off. She goes to the library and rents. This is an important aspect. Withdraws a book, which is basically a CD romance novel, one of those romance novels, you know, Mills and Boon, that kind of thing, you know.
Over here,
and the librarian says, "Oh, you've read this one before," and she's like, "Yeah, it's my favourite." And it's like, there you go. So instantly, you're like, so she likes romantic novels, and again, you get an idea of a relationship issue. That's the world she likes to live in. Yeah. But then on the way out, she also, with her money problems, sees a magazine that implies, "Look, we'll teach you how to turn your home into a B&B." She's got a big house.
Yeah, it's a lovely house.
It's so fucking adorable. This is my favourite moment of the film, as she doesn't know what a binib is. A binib. Yeah, binib. She goes, "What's a binib?" Yeah. Because it's written, obviously, B&B. It's not, you know. And the scene where she's back home and she's gone on a computer she's never really used before, and she's laughing at how she's like, "Oh, it's a B&B," that kind of thing. Fucking Lin Shaye, man. Yeah. Like, if I ever got the opportunity to speak to her, I'd love to talk to her about this movie. I feel like everyone would want to talk to her about Insidious. And stuff like that. And yes, she's incredible in those. Just ends up becoming a star. But I'd love to talk to her about this and to say, like, this was the movie that made me think, wow.
I like the way the progression of events happen as well. So we have to see her at the bank to know she's got money problems for her to do the Airbnb, because otherwise she'd be like, if she's a widow, she probably lives off the husband's money. Yep. Why would she do this? Where's the impetus to let strangers into your home? But she needs money. There you go.
Absolutely, but it should also be noted she's incredibly lonely, and she sees this as an opportunity for that. So she time passes. She tries to rent it out, and a young writer, Sarah, which is Valeska Miller, and her husband Edward become the first lodgers. Immediately, there's no real character stuff here. You're immediately given a crash course in who's the good and who's the bad here. He's a dickhead. Yeah. Rude, unfriendly, that kind of thing. Sarah's meek, kind, nice, instantly likeable to Joyce. But we also realise that Joyce here has boundary issues. She welcomes them, she's overtly welcoming them, shows them to the room, but also makes cookies and then just bursts into their room, walks into it. And he's kind of like, "Well, this is our room." Yeah. And she's like, "Well, this is my house." Yeah. And instantly like, yeah, and I sympathise. Yeah. I tried to picture what it'd be like if we share a 2-bedroom flat here, which what's called the empty room is my son's room, who doesn't stay here as much anymore. And the idea was, what if we rented out to a lodger? Would we be able to have that disconnect?
Yeah,
it's your home.
And she's like an older lady as well. I like the fact she gets a bargain though to the guy.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where she just spits venom almost instantly.
Yeah, and she offers them the cookies, and she's like to him, "Oh, just one for you because you're a bit fat." Yeah. Burn. But yeah, I think maybe I think he needs to make him a dick quite quickly, because it was quite a quick scene that he's in.
He's not around for long.
Yeah, so you can't spend time to go, "Oh, is he? It's like, no, he clearly is. Like,
we just need it. Yeah, it's one of those, we just need it, and it works because it furthers the story for Sarah. Yeah. As Joyce bonds with her, Edward is obviously put off by her demeanour and ends up going, "Look, we're not staying here, we're leaving." They leave, and Sarah decides to stay in touch with Joyce via letters. They send letters back to each other. You know, it is sweet because it shows as well that Sarah's understanding of Joyce's age, and because like letters are Joyce's thing rather than like emails and stuff like that. Actually, at the end, we'd even get a reference to the impersonality of typed things at the very, very end. So this is what I love about this movie. It constantly feels like something we see is designed and purposely there because we're going to use it later on, even if it's a throwaway line. And we're not talking about plot building here. Sometimes it's just a character thing where it's like, this is here. So later on you can go, "Oh yeah." And
I think like they make the characters, they develop characters really quickly. So like when Joyce says, "Oh, I lost my husband a month ago," Sarah's like, "Oh, do you want to go for a walk?" That little gesture, I'm like, that's a really nice gesture. Rather than going, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and that's the end of it. No, let's go for a walk and let's talk, and you can just vent a little bit and stuff like that. And I thought that was a very nice gesture. And I'm like, "Oh, Sarah, I like her."
Sarah's a nice character, a bit bland, not the most interesting, but nice for this. It's just a nice character. We should also note this is the first time we kind of get an idea that Joyce might be a liar. And here's the thing, though. The film doesn't know way we don't know. So she starts to tell Sarah that her husband... Like, she implies that Edward might hit Sarah, and Sarah denies it. But then she starts to imply later on that she got beat around and knocked around by her husband and stuff like that, her dead husband. Problem is, we don't know if that's true or not. Yeah. Because we have we never saw the husband's face. No. But this fantasy world will start to sort of see grow and eventually become more obvious that Joyce is a liar, a manipulative, but it also then creates shade of grey near the end, which I think is fascinating. So, home's empty, needs money, and Bob turns up. Yeah. She meets Bob in a library, and one of the things I love about Joyce's character, and this is a constant, she always gets really close to people to talk to them. And even with Bob, like she'll stand, like because she's small and demeanor, small and petite. Yeah. She gets really close to him and sort of stands under him, but never really looks at him. And just like that, and she'll like look up and be like that. It kind of plies into that meek woman thing, which comes down to this thing by the end. How much of that was a put on? Yeah. To imply that.
Yeah, because she's smart enough to take down a post, because there's a sign on the notice board of the library saying a room for rent. Yep. But not by someone else, so not her room for rent. And she's like, oh. Takes it down. Oh, that room's already gone.
Yeah, she plays it. Yeah, it's manipulative.
Yeah, so she's got enough there to kind of get what she needs out of life. But then, when she's kind of directly threatened, I don't think she's not able to deal with that.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, but this is Oliver Rayon, who is great in this. I think his role is wonderful. I think one of the things I love about this movie is there's no clear-cut bad guy. I think Joyce is a damaged individual, as we will learn as things go on. And the thing is, it tries to imply Bob being a bit of a drifter. It's clear he's a drifter. When we first meet him, he's got a plaster on his head and stuff like that. But Bob's not a bad dude. He's a drug peddler, but he's not a bad dude. And he, even at the end, even to the point, he constantly forgives Joyce and he tries and he cares for her. He does, and that's an important aspect of his character. But he ends up moving into Joyce's house. And she becomes infatuated with him. Yeah. She makes him special dinners. She dresses to impress him. Yeah. There's transformations. They're awkward as fuck. And you can see the awkwardness in his face. Basically, she's dressing like a
ruffled tops and
20-year-old. Yeah. You know, that kind of thing. And I'm not one of those people. I dress like you want. And I think a lot of times she looks lovely. Yeah. I think she looks lovely. But it's clearly not clothing design for her. There's a great scene where she's in high heels in the kitchen. Yeah. And it's clear the clack, 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 how awkward that is. She even gets a salad dish so he can watch like all football. And there's a little scenes that are designed to be awkward to make you go when she implies she loves football and he's watching the football and he's saying things and she's copying him like, oh damn it ref, come on ref, like, come on ref, and you're just like, and she's kind of like looking at him to see reactions and stuff like that. Anyway, Sarah ends up revisiting when she splits up with Edward. And that's an important aspect too, because there she meets Bob. Now we are jumping a bit ahead here because Bob ends up doing more and more for Joyce. So for example, Joyce ends up running into those same kids and they get quite violent towards her. And it's a pretty harrowing scene.
They threaten sexual violence, didn't they?
They do, they really do. But she ends up kissing one of the boys in a moment of madness, it seems, and then attacks him and he runs off and stuff like that. She goes home and later those kids will come back and throw eggs at her house. But Bob will intervene this time and beat up one of the kids, which just makes Joyce fall even more in love with her. Like, here's my protecting man. And through letters to Sarah, she kind of implies, without directly saying it, that her and Bob might be in a relationship.
Yeah, because thinking back now, we know what Bob looks like.
Yep.
Sarah doesn't. So in her mind, Bob could be an older retired... And name Bob...
Yep.
I'm automatically picturing an older retired gentleman in my head. So maybe, it's weird because obviously we know Bob. We know they're not together. Jesus, no. But on the flip side, Sarah's like, oh, she found a new man. She's dating someone again.
What I thought was interesting, because my thought process was going to be, well, Sarah's going to turn up and be like, well, they're not together. But Joyce never actively says it. But also, Sarah's smart. Sarah's a writer. Sarah quickly cottons on, I think, that Joyce lives in a fantasy world. Yeah. Like a fantasy world. That kind of thing. However... knowing that, and knowing where you're staying, probably don't sleep with him. Yeah. Which is what Sarah does. Yeah. Probably not the smartest of moves. Yeah. I realise you're a single woman, he's a single guy as far as you're aware, but like, if you know Joyce might have an infatuation with him, and you also know, like, you're in her house and stuff like that, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't do that, you know?
Yeah, that was poor decision on her part. Really poor.
It was, and it would turn out to be a very, very poor decision. Joyce just gets incredibly harsh and mean towards them. Really cutting comments.
Really hostile.
Very hostile.
And it's such a shift from before. Oh, can I make you breakfast? Can I do all this? To like, spilling drinks. The face is stony faced. There's no emotion on their face.
And Sarah notices there's a scene where she goes out and asks Joyce if he can help her, and Joyce is like, why are you asking for you to help me? Do you think I'm useless? Do you think I'm this, whatever? Anyway, she ends up going next door to talk to Gladys, which is Joyce's next door neighbour, who reveals that, she fell out with Joyce a while back due to different personalities and abandonment issues and things like that. Gladys also tells her that Fred, who was Joyce's husband, forced her to abort a baby, which ties back to something Joyce said, that she'd always wanted kids, but they couldn't have them. Yeah. That shows a lie.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Joyce watches this from a window. When Sarah comes back, she starts to demand what they talk about, And Sarah realises, look, and she even says, look, I don't know what I've done. Yeah. I'm sorry. I think she acknowledges that she shouldn't have slept with Bob.
Yep.
And then she leaves. And Joyce is actually a bit upset about this, because you can kind of sort of see, because one of the other things Joyce does constantly, she snoops. She snoops in Bob's room, she snoops in her room. She's constantly trying to find out information about what people are thinking or what they're saying, as if she can preempt them.
And she thinks she thinks Sarah's writing a book about it, doesn't she?
That's right.
She sort of sees...
We never see what she says, but she reads part of the line and says, oh, she's writing about me. And they're like, is that the case again?
Yeah, is she... Or she saw her name in the context of something else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it doesn't really get explained, which is another... It's like it's kept hidden from us.
It doesn't matter, though, because as well, we get scenes of Joyce reading her book, and you can see that she's delving more and more into this fantasy world. She's living in one where her and Bob are apparently a loving couple, and he protects her, and here comes this usurper Sarah to try and steal him. Almost what it does is it snaps Joyce back to reality, and it's a reality she doesn't want to live in. Yeah. But it's something she wants to constantly control, so she ends up going next door to Gladys to find out. She acts really nice to Gladys, I want to make up to you and all that, but she actually wants to find out what Sarah said to her. And she ends up suffocating her with a pillow. Yeah. Yeah.
It's horrible, because this whole idea, the idea of Gladys as well is quite sad as well.
Yeah.
Like she's on her own all day apart from the nurse twice a day, and she was so happy to be reunited with Joyce.
Yeah, it was really nice.
It's a horrible scene because you know that Joyce
is manipulating her.
There's horrible motives behind. We don't know that she's going to kill her eventually, but we don't trust Joyce, but Gladys doesn't know that.
Yeah.
She welcomes her open arms, and it's quite sad.
And dies for it, absolutely. Yeah. And at this point, you're probably like us, you're a bit like, okay, Joyce is a real problem. And Bob returns home, and you get this incredible double scene where, from his view, you can see Joyce and the nurse is crying in Joyce's arm. Joyce sees him and starts crying loudly too. Yeah. Later, after that, Bob is inside the house, and Joyce comes past the window, stoic face, not crying, opens the door and starts crying when she comes in. You're like, oh, Joyce. Oh. She gets a hug out of Bob and all that kind of thing. And she reveals to him, this is later on, isn't it, when about the son thing. But,
that's later on.
Yeah, Bob wants to know where Sarah went, which annoys Joyce, and she implies that Sarah went back to Edward to make up with her husband, which obviously kind of hurts Bob. To certain go. After this, he actually catches Joyce going for his belongings. And this is the final straw for him. Yeah. As he kind of snaps here, and he's just like, look, what is this bullshit? You've been doing this all along and stuff like that. And she then turns on to him, but basically saying, look, I'm really sorry, but you're like my son. You remind me of my son. She implies she had a son who passed away years ago. And we know this is complete lies. Yeah. And it's just a level of just like, but also how much she's twisting her own shit up, that it's all going to come unraveling eventually. And Bob does accept this, and he's apologetic and says, look, it's okay. But he's still wary of her, as he should be at this case.
It kind of makes you feel that he's a bit of he needs this place as well.
Yep.
Like, because we're like, oh, you just move on. It's like, well, from what we've seen, I don't know if he's got money problems, he's got drug dealer problems.
We never really see a lot of his life, but all we know is he goes out, he drinks, he comes back, the night he sleeps with Sarah, he comes back and he's been in a bar fight. Like, it's that kind of character. It's that kind of thing. So we don't know anything about him. But that's the thing, there's no mystery to him, as you'll end up finding out. He just is a dude who peddles some drugs, drinks some drinks, sleeps with some women, and that's it. And then probably moves town once he's pissed off enough people. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. We then see Joyce going to a doctor and implying she can't sleep at night to get hold of sleeping tablets. And you can see the writing on the wall here.
You're like, where's this?
Yeah. We actually see her mixing them in drinks, and she makes Bob a home-cooked meal, but spikes his food and drink with it, knocking him out cold. She then uses that as an opportunity to get a key and go into his trunk. He has a locked trunk in his room, and it's there she ends up discovering a bag of nose powder. And here we return to the adorably innocent Joyce, as she just doesn't...
Nose candy, isn't
nose
it?
candy.
Nose candy.
She doesn't know what it is.
No.
But I guess her fascination with him, she ends up sniffing some of it.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of it, actually.
Yeah.
And basically goes on a coke high, which gives her the strength to move his body. I thought that was an interesting touch.
Yeah. You haven't seen much of that before.
So she drags his body to the floor and kind of implies like she's in a romance novel with him, where he's got his arms around her, she ties him around her kind of thing. Yeah. But she also should be noted, basically sexually assaults him by having a look at his dong. Yeah. You know? It's an uncomfortable scene. Yeah. Like a lot of them. But we should also note that in his trunk, she found a lot of money. He's a successful drug trafficker. Yeah. So the next morning, what she's done is she's laid him on the floor surrounded by beers and bottles, like
as
if...
JD,
yeah. And he wakes up and he's like, oh shit, did we have every night? That kind of thing. And she makes some Bob comments about, oh yeah, he's like, why aren't you feeling rough and stuff like that? Yeah. And she's like, well, I've got more self-control than you and shit like that. So it's pretty hardcore. But it's all coming to a head as there's a knock on the door. And it's a letter for Bob. But there's also a letter that only can be given to him. She's like, I'll take the letter. And he's like, no, I have to give it to him. Yeah. Otherwise it's a notice. And you know straight away who that letter is from and why it's been delivered in such a fashion where it's been like, it can only go to the person.
We can't trust.
You cannot get it because otherwise Joyce will get it. Anyway, Bob comes down and he gets the letter and he's right pissed with Joyce here again in that application. To enough that he closes the door on her. Yeah. And it's like that anticipation. And she's constantly like, what's in the letter? What's in the letter? We were like, what's in the letter? That kind of thing. But we never really find out. As afterwards, he basically just confronts Joyce and accuses her of lying and that the sun isn't real and all this kind of thing. And says he's leaving. Yep. He's leaving. And he goes to leave, collect his belongings, and Joyce then beats him to death with a frying pan. Which is a pretty hardcore scene. It
is, yes. Yep. Quite shocking. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It is like, oh wow, she finally goes for it.
Covered in blood, she reads the letter. Again, we don't find a detail, but through her conversation implies it was from Sarah, basically detailing Joyce's problems. Yeah. But I don't know if this is the step up. So basically, Joyce is able to dispose of his body. Yeah. And it all makes sense. He's a nobody. No one's looking for him. Earlier on, we found that he has no family. He's got some brothers, but he doesn't talk to them. So he says he hasn't talked to them in decades. Yeah. Father's dead. I think his father was not around or something like that. It's a very easy person to get rid of. She sells his motorbike for cash.
Yeah, done.
Which is really, really clever. And buries his body in a back garden and plants an apple tree on it. And it's like, whoa. And you're like, shit, she'll get away with it. Yeah. Because she ends up getting back in contact with Sarah, apologising and stuff like that, and wanting to make up. And Sarah, being a nice person, agrees to. We also found out in the letter Sarah wrote to Bob that she reveals she's pregnant. Yeah. So, Joyce invites Sarah to come stay at her house while Joyce goes away for a holiday for a fair few months. A fair few months. So come stay here, you're able to relax and enjoy yourself and all that. In that letter, she never once implies that Bob isn't there, though. Yeah. Part of the reason Sarah comes. When Sarah arrives, they make up, and then she reveals Sarah wants to know what Bob is, and she reveals Bob just left. And in a brilliant way of dialogue, in an innocent old lady way, she says, oh, he got a letter, and he read it, and then he just ran off. He just disappeared. Whatever in that letter must have really upset him. And you can see, Sarah, it all implies that Bob just was like, fuck that, I'm gone. And Sarah's really hurt by that and stuff like that. And it's like, God, that's incredible. So Joyce then gets in her car, in a limo to drive away to a bye, all that kind of thing. And Sarah goes inside, She's obviously a bit sad, that kind of thing. She goes to Bob's room. Yeah. Bob's room is locked, so she can't get in, and she just walks away. We fade into the door to reveal that inside that room, Joyce has made it into a baby's room with a nursery with a grandmother signs and stuff like that, implying that Joyce will be back and Sarah won't be around. And she's going to keep that baby and stuff like that. And it all makes sense as well because earlier on we got a lot of detail about Sarah's family and how potentially she could just disappear too. I think that'd be harder, but it's interesting. Yeah. It's an interesting end. I really love this movie. Yeah. I think from beginning to end it captivates you. It holds your attention and it wants you to experience uncomfortable thriller and horror.
I was watching a horror film at some point, which I'm going to watch, really awkwardness of Joyce being so over the top at the beginning, and it's just really cringe to watch. when she's getting all like dressed up and do you want another beer? Like literally taking a sip of the beer. Do you want another one? Do you want another one? And it's really cringing. And like it's like there's like the grey areas of like her mental state after losing her husband. You question whether she had a part to play in his death. Yeah,
because throughout the film, as she goes on, whether they're truth or not, or lies, she continually implies her husband was a bad dude, more and more and more. So you start wondering, well, how long has she been like this? And is she responsible for his death? Yeah. We don't know. No. Considering how manipulative she actually is. Yeah.
So that's another interesting point.
Yeah. Favourite moments, things that stand out for you? So for me, I've got a few. Some of them are nice. I just love the part where she discovers what B&B is. And her joy of finding and learning something at a computer is just adorable as fuck. Really, really good shit. I love a lot of the scenes between her and Bob, particularly the dinner table scene that follows after her and Sarah have slept together, and she's standing over Bob and he's just staring at Sarah, so she throws the drink. Like, that's really, really awkward shit.
Yeah.
Like that, I love that. That's the kind of shit where I'm like, oh, that's horrible. I love when Bob confronts her in the room, because it's like, finally, someone's, look, I've had enough of this, oh, I'm a little old lady act.
Yeah.
No, this is not on.
Yeah.
But in certain lines, I love Lynn Shay's certain lines, like when she gets this package, and she's like, well, it's my house, I should be able to open packages that come to my house. It's like, no, boundaries, lady, come on. And stuff like that. Just, it's a lovely movie. What were some of yours?
So, one of my first ones is, like I said, when Sarah and Joyce bond. The fact that when someone said, oh, I lost my husband, it wasn't just a throwaway, like, the cliche line of, I'm so sorry for your loss. It was, I'm sorry for your loss, and then let's go for a walk. I really enjoyed that bit. I liked when Bob defended Joyce against the shitbag kids.
Oh yeah, because those kids deserved a slap.
It was a nice side to see Bob protecting someone, because she was quite lonely, and I wanted, like, you wanted it to be, you knew it wasn't going to be a nice film, but you want it to be like where there are nice people, and even when you're a lonely widow, there's going to be people that are going to look after you and stuff. And I kind of didn't want it to kind of go the way it did.
Yeah, you almost want it to be like, not even a film, but just like this lonely old lady has a bustling house as people come and go, B&B, and she's treated as a mother to everybody, and everybody respects and loves. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And she actually loves her life because she gets to meet all these people, new, coming and going, and like that's what you want. But that ain't in a fucking film.
Yeah. But then that just a bit of Bob defending this lady was like, oh, that's a nice touch. But yeah, then obviously it goes to shit. And obviously that last fade is quite
dark, very sinister, dark. Very like, oh, you know what's going to happen, you know what it's implying. What about parts you didn't like? What about parts that didn't work? Because there's one that stands out for me, and it's the money thing. So earlier on, obviously the money set up and the whole reason for the B&B is quite important. But later on, it actually starts becoming an issue and it starts becoming integral to the plot. And I thought that was a bit of a problem. And what I mean by that is Bob is obviously staying there for cheap. That's part of the reason. But she pays for satellite. She does all this. He even says to her, look, I've got to give you some money for this. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Where's she getting that money from?
I mean, it could be that the house is paid off, but she's got to have money to keep going with the house.
No, I know all that. It's a minor thing, but what I'm saying is don't do that thing where you're adding stuff that we don't see on here.
No.
They went to pains to tell us money was an issue, and the point was she was going to have to rent out her house to have money.
Yeah. Yeah, it does make you... Yeah,
that's just the thing where it was implied it was an important part, and it just didn't become anything. Because Bob's the only one that stays there after her. Like, no one else renting out rooms. Later on, Sarah will be there and stuff like that, but that's it.
Yeah, there's a point.
Yeah. What else? No, there's not... I mean, obviously there's going to be little parts, little bits here, stuff and all that, but overall I just thoroughly enjoy it.
Part of me thought that the kids that kind of threaten sexual violence, if they were capable of that, the fact they come out with eggs, I thought they could have been a bit more vindictive.
Yeah, you know what, that's a very good point, right? There's a big jump, right? Yeah, you are right. There's a big jump from I'm insulting her at a skateboard to I'm going to hand over her mouth up against the wall, pull up her skirt, kind of thing. Like that, and then back to throwing eggs at her. Yeah, you are right. That is a fucking...
And the fact that wasn't followed up, her landlord, like her lodger. I mean, I don't know the time difference when he actually, like, I don't know, would the kids not...
After he beats the kids, they're never seen again.
Yeah. Would they... I don't know if they were too scared to report it, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I mean, there's no problem with that one, that kind of thing.
But yeah, just the fact that it kind of went from like that to, oh, we're going to throw some eggs. I thought, no, you throw, maybe you haven't thrown a proper brick.
You are right. That is a weird contrast.
Yeah.
But these are nitpicky shit.
Yeah, they tried to pick something.
Yeah, I asked you to pick something, so it's nitpicking, isn't it? Yeah. This is a worthy watch. Do go check it out. I believe, well, as of right now, time recording, it's still free on Amazon Prime. So go check this one out. You're going to be thoroughly entertained. You're going to be made uncomfortable. You're going to feel a bit crap, a little bit horrible throughout, but you're going to be satisfied.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have seen it, or if you watch it on our recommendation, let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?